Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Mr. Osem Wasapi, and in this video we'll be looking at the squeeze theorem, or others will term it as the sandwich theorem. Alright, so before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so now, what is the squeeze theorem or the sandwich theorem? So, you can understand it in this way. Say you have three functions. You have h of x, let's say being less than or equal to f of x, then it's also being less than or equal to what? G of x. Now, this here creates an inequality. So, what you have to understand is this. If the limit of the first function as x approaches c of the first function being h of x, if this limit is equivalent to the limit of the last function, which is g of x, as x approaches c, it implies that this will also be equivalent to the limit of what? F of x as x approaches c. So what we mean is that if lim as x approaches c of h of x is equal to lim as x approaches c of g of x, and let's say that limit is L, then it means that the limit as x approaches c of f of x will also be L. This is what the squeeze theorem states. Now, to basically understand this squeeze theorem, we need to look at some examples. So, say you have such an example. If the radical of 5 minus 2x squared is less than or equal to f of x, being less than or equal to the radical of 5 minus x squared for this range, find the limit of f of x as x approaches what? 0. Now here, we need to find the limit. We didn't say prove it, we just need to find the limit. So in order for us to find the limit of f of x, we need to find the limit of the first and the last function. So what we're going to do is quite simple. Remember, if the limit as x approaches 0 of the first function, which is radical 5 minus 2x squared, is equivalent to the limit as x approaches 0 of the last function, which is radical 5 minus x squared. If these limits are equivalent to one another, then the limit of the middle function will be the same. So if we try and find the limit of the one on the left hand side by plugging in, we'll have the root of 5 minus 2, then 0 squared being equal to the root of 5 minus 0 squared. In the end, we end up having root of 5 here being equivalent to root of what? 5. So this implies that the limit as x approaches 0 of radical 5 minus 2x squared is equal to the limit of radical 5 minus x squared as x approaches 0. And that limit is radical 5. Now, this means that the limit as x approaches 0 of the middle function f of x is also equal to radical 5. So that's how you go about it. Let's look at the last example. So it can be shown that the inequalities are given in such a manner. So the inequality is given as 1 minus x squared over 6 being less than x sine x over x minus 2 cos what? X being less than 1. Now, it holds for all values of x close to 0. Now, what, if anything, does this tell you about this limit of x approaches 0 of the middle function, which is x sine x over x minus 2 cos x? And you have to give a reason for your answer. So now, for us to know what it says, we need to find the limit of this middle function. And how do we do that? Remember, the limit of the first function, which is x approaching 0, the first function, which is 1 minus x squared over 6. If this is equivalent to the last function, its limit, which is the limit as x approaches 0 of 1, it means that whatever that we get here should also be equivalent to what we'll get for the middle function. So if we try and find the limit here, on the first function, we'll have 1 minus 0 squared over 6 being equal to the limit of a constant. In this case, will always be the constant. So if you have the limit of a number such as 5 or minus 5, just be that 5 or minus 5. So here the limit is literally 1. But here, if you follow it out, you get a 0 over 6 giving you a 0, so you just get a 1 being equal to what? 1. So now this means that the limit as x approaches 0 of 1 minus x squared over 6 is equal to the limit as x approaches 0 of 1. And this limit is equivalent to 1. Now, this then says that the limit of x approaches 0 of x sine x over x minus 2 cos x is also equivalent to what? 1. So that's what it says. Now, they're saying you need to give a reason for your answer. Now, the reason for our answer is simply the topic at hand, which is the squeeze theorem. Or the sandwich what? Theorem. So this is the reason. So what, if anything, does this tell you about the limit of that? It tells us the limit of that is 1, provided that the first function's limit is equal to the last function's limit. And then you have to give a reason for your answer. The answer being 1 is as a result of the squeeze theorem or sandwich theorem. Alright, thanks for watching. This is Mr. Hussein Mwasapi. If you have any questions, you can reach me on WhatsApp on the number attached to the screen and in my description. Alright, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And remember, strategize before you become a statistic and I shall push for I+.